Hello and welcome back to the Chat Cave podcast, where I discuss media in the forms of reviews and discussions. I'm your host, Tracking King Thomas Hughes, and today is not, again, the original planned episode, because last week when I covered Congo, obviously straight after I recorded that episode, I was like, you know what, I'm going for a second one here. So I was literally covering this week's episodes I didn't have to do this week, so I was kind of getting myself in a position where I'm always that week ahead in case there's any problems, which is probably a good thing that I did it then. But at the same time, it's pissing me off that this happened. So basically, I originally planned to do Demon Slayer The Mugen Train review, because I'd recently watched that in cinema. So I was like, okay, I can do a talk on that, talk about just Demon Slayer in general. And, I had all my Lego Demon Slayer stuff here. I had my Demon Slayer sword. I was showing off a lot of shit. And I think the episode clocked in at, just over half hour long, maybe 40 minutes. Problem is, when I came to edit it, the day later, I think it was, for some reason, OBS decided not to record any audio. So it recorded audio on my first video, but then didn't record anything on the second one. It just recorded basically the video, that was it. So I was like, for fuck's sake, that is kind of got me from like a higher thinking, oh yeah, I'm ahead here. I've got myself ahead and I've done a pretty decent episode, and then it straight away just sunk me back down thinking, fuck's sake, that was just a waste of half an hour. And I've spent, before even hitting record on this video, I spent ages consistently checking the settings over and over and over and over again to make sure it was set to my microphone. At the moment it is. If it doesn't record it, then fuck OBS. I'm going to try and find something else to record with, because it's just fucking me over. It's happened a few times now. It happened once before with Connor, where I'm pretty certain it recorded my dialogue. So it did record the microphone, it just didn't record the desktop audio, which was where he was on Discord. So it has happened before. It doesn't happen often. It's like once every fucking God knows how long. So I don't know why it did it, considering I fact I've recorded moments before. But it happens. Sadly, that Demon Slayer episode isn't going out this week. I'm going to try my ass off to get that episode out maybe next week. So re-record it, or at some point in the near future. Might just wait off now until the actual Demon Slayer movie comes out and do it then, but we'll wait. We'll see. Depends how I feel, because I didn't know exactly what to do for this episode. It was kind of one of those things where I was like, okay, what do I do then? I never actually planned for this week's episode, because I'd already done this week's episode. So it's like, what do I do? So I didn't actually watch anything last night. I was too fucking tired. I was like, I'm not going to concentrate. So I was like, okay, I'll watch them in the morning when I get up, and I'll do the episode then. So I got up this morning about 6:30, went through. Well, I didn't go through anything. I went through stuff last night when I was deciding what to watch. I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm just going to do that. And that is a movie called Zombeavers, which was released in 2014. Look at my notes here. And obviously, the synopsis follows. It follows a group of friends who vacation at a lakeside cabin only to encounter a family of beavers, or a colony, depends what you can call. They're called family and colonies, so I just went with family, who have been affected by toxic sludge that has turned them into, well, Zombeavers. And obviously, if you read that synopsis anywhere, or you listen to someone say that out loud, you're thinking, oh, it's got to be like a sci-fi original movie, or one of those fucking asylum movies. And I was going to have an example for both of them, but a lot of the examples I was coming up with technically came from both studios. So, for example, I was going to say, oh, like the Sharknado movie, by the sci-fi original Sharknado movie, but then I was like, wait, no, that's an Asylum movie. I was like, okay, let's go again. Asylum. The two-headed shark attack. No, that was also a sci-fi original movie. So a lot of the ones I was coming up with were just... A lot of the ones I was coming up with in this crazy concept were basically technically both companies. So I was just like, okay, fuck it, that's it. But yeah, you'd be thinking it'd be one of those studios behind this, because I mean, come on, it's a movie about beavers that become zombified and attacking people. That just straight away sounds low budget, either straight to TV or straight to DVD, or straight to streaming technically nowadays. But no, it was actually made by Universal Studios. Obviously, yes, it was a lower budgeted effort, but still, it's very surprising that it came from Universal Studios, or one of the big movie companies. But that probably explains why there does seem a little bit more budget than you'd probably find in one of these, as a sci-fi originals or these asylum movies. That probably does explain why there's a little bit more of a budget behind this. Yeah, not a massive budget. I can't actually tell you the budget behind it because I've been googling the hell out of the internet. Googling the hell out of this movie, sorry, to try and figure out how much it cost to make this movie. But everywhere I looked, there's no sign of a budget attached to this. A lot of things I've just been reading saying along the line of it's low budgeted. It's not low budgeted like I've been saying, some of these straight to DVD efforts. But it's a lower end budget where they probably made their money back, or at least didn't lose a massive amount on it. Because you say you're watching it, most of the money, if we're being honest, is probably in its practical effects, which I'll get to in a bit, and that's it. Because it's not a massive starring cast. Again, I got some notes on that later. It's not something that heavily relies on digital effects. There's a couple of shots, but that's it. So it's not something that is going to require them to just chuck a fuck ton of money into. So I did look, and Wikipedia's saying it made about $44,000, whereas IMDb is saying about 55,000. Well, roughly pushing 55,000. So anywhere between that, it made. So as long as it didn't cost $1 million to make, that they're fine. So, but you can tell it's low budgeted, but that at times helps it, I find. So what else did I jot down here? But yeah, so again, I'm gonna apologise right now. I'm at the back end of a cold, so if I'm sniffly or rubbing my nose, it's because I'm just hopefully coming out of a cold right now. I've been suffering all weekend with it, so fingers crossed I'm better when me and Alex sit down to do Split Fiction. But yeah, so obviously I did technically buy this movie, pre-2019, maybe like 2017, 2018, maybe something stupid like that. I did technically buy it on Blu-ray, but I actually ended up getting a refund on it because the movie never arrived. It cost me like less than £5. I think it was like it was a ridiculously cheaper offer for, if I remember correctly, it was brand new. It wasn't like second hand. It was from a shop that deals with both brand new and second hand stuff. But obviously it was via Amazon. And as I say, it was brand new, it was cheap, it was Blu-ray. I was like, fuck it, I'll have that. I'd already watched it at that point and I'd enjoyed it enough to say, well, I'll pick it up on Blu-ray, but it just never arrived, and then just had to give me a refund on it. So all I can assume is it just got lost in the system that is Royal Mail, where most things tend to get lost. So I ended up just buying the digital version, probably for about the same price. So that's how I watched it in the end, was just the digital copy of it. So yeah, obviously, if we look into the movie now, the movie is very over the top. It ranges from stupid characters to very dumb dialogue, and very, very generic, like cringy, stupid dialogue at times. I mean, there's one that I jotted down as an example. So early in the movie, there's a very brief sex montage. It's not anything too graphic. It's not. It's more played out for laughs. And there's one character, and while he's going to town, he just screams out random shit. And one of the things he screams out, and I quote right now, where is it? There it is. I feel like a Power Ranger. So that's one thing he screams out, and that, if that doesn't just sum up the level of dialogue for this movie, nothing does. But as I said, there's plenty of other quotes in this movie that you can sort of go, oof. That is very cringy, very stupid, and it kind of, it works weirdly for this movie, but then again, being stupid, being weird, is probably where this movie needed to go, since its title is, well, Zombeavers. I feel like if it tried to take itself too serious, then it just wouldn't work for me. I feel like it had to go into this absurd, stupid realm, with its characters, with its dialogue, with its actions from characters. Like, it had to go there for it to work properly. I don't think it would have worked if it just went too serious. It had to be stupid. So obviously, we'll head on to the practical effects of this movie, because that's where this movie thrives for me. It's the fact that they went, you know what, let's not go the route of digital for these beavers, let's go practical here. So they have obviously practical beavers. They have some. I think it's a mixture of animatronics and puppetry, because I say that because there's definitely some shots where it's very clear it looks like a small animatronic creature, and there's definitely shots where I'm looking at it and thinking, that's not animatronic, that's a fucking puppet. And I'm just going to quickly turn my light on because it's going to be dark and dull. Oh, there we go, it's better. So yeah, there's definitely some shots where I'm looking at it and going, that's a puppet. Case in point, there's a scene where the beavers are trying to break into this house. Specifically, you can see the head of the beaver coming through the window, and they're obviously wailing it, trying to get it out. And you can clearly tell it's someone that's going with a hand, like moving the hand, because it's a fucking puppet. And that again adds to this movie's like stupidness, and it again works. I feel like if it went the CGI route, it just wouldn't be as good. Yeah, they could probably do some more goofy shit with the beavers, i.e., I don't know, they could just definitely do some more fucking stupid shit if they went digital with them, but I just think them going the puppetry route, just puppetry / animatronic route, again, worked in its favour. Like the dialogue of this movie, like the stupid characters, it works in this movie's favour, because it's trying to be this tongue-in-cheek horror comedy, horror in the sense of, oh, this creature attacking them, comedy being, it's a fucking beaver. Like, going the practical route definitely works. Don't get me wrong, there is a couple of CGI shots when it does require it. There's not many, there's a couple, and they're not the greatest. So I'm, again, happy they went via the animatronic route, because if I saw some of these shots over and over again, I'd be going, yeah, the animatronics at times, you can clearly tell it's fucking fake. But again, that adds to its charm, that adds to its stupid nature, and I feel like if it looked too real, you at that point you kind of have to take this movie seriously, and you don't want to take this movie seriously. Again, it's a movie about fucking beavers that become zombies. You don't want to take this movie seriously. You want to take it as, stupid as possible, and that's what they get out of it. So yeah, I'd say the practical effect, I'd say, again, though they look very fake at times, they are pretty funny. I mean, the first shot you get of them, of normal beavers at least, at the very opening sequence, which is a mixture of live action and animated. So obviously there's live action, obviously panning the shots going on as you're following this toxic waste barrel, obviously flowing down the river into the lake. Obviously you've got like this animated foreground shot, obviously just showing obviously the characters in an animated format, showing the beavers doing naughty stuff, biting trees and stuff, causing chaos. You got all this animated, which again adds to the movie's charm, and I'm happy they did that. It is quite it throws you off. You don't expect it. You're like, whoa, what the fuck's going on here? And you're just like, okay, it doesn't look the best, but it's pretty damn funny. But obviously when it pans to the final bit of it, when obviously you see two beavers sat on the obviously beaver dam looking down, this barrel sort of squirting, obviously toxic sludge everywhere. Obviously you can clearly tell they're just two fake ass creatures just going, slightly moving the head every now and again, looking at each other being like, what the fuck is this thing? But so that adds to its charm, because that shot there just make that shot, and on top of that the animated bits added to it, get you into what you're going to expect of this movie in terms of the look of it. I feel like in terms of dialogue, getting into that, or character actions, the open sequence with the two guys driving, the ones that caused the sludge to go, that their sort of type of dialogue, what they're saying, how they're acting, that gets you into what you're expecting from the rest of the group. Because, I mean, they're just talking about, sex and shit like that. Stuff that these two redneck hillbilly type characters would be talking about. I mean, they're not even rednecks, but, they're close enough. And there's a scene where, they did this scene twice actually in the movie, where the guy's on his phone and the other guy's like, there's a deer in front of us, and he's just like, yeah, I see it. And he's like, I don't think you see this deer. He's like, no, I see this deer. And of course, them running over the deer is what causes the sludge to fall out the back, and then eventually leads into the beavers becoming zombies. But stuff like that, and then the following up lines of check the back's fine, I'll check the front. Yeah, it's not going to make it. Those sort of lines make you go, okay, I'm expecting the rest of this movie to be just goofy from just what people are saying. I'm expecting everyone else to be as dumb as he's. Well, actually, not expecting everyone else to be as dumb as these characters, specifically the one character, the one that causes it all in the first place. But you get that anyway, and as I said, that works for this movie because at not one point you're rooting for these characters, and I don't mind that sometimes if obviously you don't get behind the characters. I feel like when you're watching one of these movies, if it's one that there's no character development, there's no real urge to like these characters, I feel like you can get away with just going, well, come on, Beavers, do your thing, see how you can get them all one by one, and I can kind of accept that. I feel like there's only one character really that you can kind of get behind because obviously there's like a whole cheating plot where someone's obviously her boyfriend's cheated on her. Obviously she's upset because of it. She's the only one that's actually kind of at times warning everyone about these beavers because she's the one trying to take it all seriously, and I feel like she's the only one you can get behind. But all the rest are just there, just for the killing, and I'm fine with that. What else we got here? Yep, talked about that. Okay, that's what I was gonna say as well. So you're probably thinking, obviously, I spoke about how over the top this movie is with its dialogue, its characters, practical effects. You're probably thinking, how much more can this movie go over the top? It's probably hit its limit, and you'd think that until the last act, where they introduce the idea of these beavers, this virus they have, can then spread to other species, so i.e. other animals, humans, and the whole last act is fully focused on that idea of, well, what if this virus is like a general virus? It can go species to species, and it kind of can infect them as well, and it just goes fucking insane in that realm of what if other things become zombies, but to an extreme nature. And again, that fucking works for this movie because it's not something you're expecting until it happens, and you're like, oh shit, because you don't really think of it, because okay, there's zombies, and yeah, most times, well, majority of media, if not all media, when zombies bite, you become a zombie. But when you're thinking it from an animal perspective, you're not really thinking, what if this animal bites them, will they become a zombie? You're not really thinking that. Because the other animal movies with zombies I can think of off the top of my head was Zombies and Zombies 2, both made by the Asylum, which obviously focuses on a bunch of animals that in a zoo that get infected. I think the second one is like a wildlife reserve, less of a zoo, more of a reserve, which is then setting up the first one. Then you got Aquarium of the Dead, which is obviously sea life getting infected by a virus. And if I remember correctly, not at any point in those movies, been a while since I watched them, but I don't remember at any point in those movies where the humans get infected. I just remember the animals being infected. So you're not really expecting the idea of this animal-based virus to then spread to humans, to animals. But this movie goes that distance, and again, that over-the-top nature fully works in this movie's favour because it adds to a good couple of moments where, obviously, when it finally happens, you're like, oh shit, didn't realise that could happen, and you just it just takes you off guard, and it's just worth it when it happens. So I do think, obviously, I did know my favourite scene in the entire movie. So the scene where you pretty much whittle your cast down to your last couple of survivors, and they're still trapped in this cabin, and they learn about the fact beavers can obviously make tunnels. So the idea of then is, well, these beavers could be under us, which is the whole point, is what happens. And they start one by one bursting out of the floorboard, and as they keep bursting up, it's just their heads. So one by one, these characters then whacking them over the head with like a whatever they've got in their hand, whatever weapon they've got. And look, it basically is very clearly there's the reference to whack-a-mole, and I'm just like, that again, that just sums up this movie's craziness. If they can go, you know what, let's do a whack-a-mole scene with these beavers where they're coming up, the characters whacking at the heads one by one, just whole shot where it's all zoomed out, and so you're watching from a distance as these beavers are bursting up, specifically breaking enough just so it's their heads that can come through before being whacked down. I was like, that again just sums up this movie's crazy nature. And one thing I did note in my notes as well, probably one of the things is the strongest part of this movie, is the movie's runtime. The movie clocks in about an hour 17, and it's not even technically that. So I think it's about an hour 11, an hour 12, but then you got your whole credits and whatnot. So it clocks in just over an hour 10 minutes, and that is very unusual for a movie. I mean, there is many movies at that length, and so these low budget ones, made by the Sci-Fi Channel, made by Asylum, made by all these other companies out there. Yeah, they tend to be quite short movies, but you don't really think like a big studio movie is going to clock in at such a short runtime. You expect at least, I don't know, an hour 20. And that's not even including the credits. I mean, because for example, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. I know there's some big studio movies that have clocked in an hour and a half, and they say you got that 10 minutes then, an hour 20 to an hour 30 of just credits, but an hour and 10 does feel very short for a movie. But that's why I'm saying this works in its favour. I feel like if this went a bit longer, it would have took a bit of its charm away. I feel like an hour and, let's just say 10 minutes. An hour and 10 works in its favour. Because, yes, you could have had that extra 10 minutes, you could have extra 20, extra 30, added character development, added some more scares, added some more gore, added some more shots of the beavers, like, killing people. Yes, that could have been added, but this movie didn't need that. It had enough of the beaver shots, it had enough of them killing people. It didn't really require the character development, as I've always stated, because these characters are designed to be ones that you're not really rooting for, and that's fine. Some movies can get away with that, and I feel like this movie definitely gets away with that. So I feel like adding an extra 10, 20 minutes for just developing these characters more wouldn't have worked in this movie's favour. It would have probably, I'd say, hindered this movie a bit, because I don't really want to root for these characters. It's like there's one character you can go, okay, I want to root for them. They kind of had a hard time, and they're not as, well, dickish as some of these other characters, but I'm okay with them not fully going into detail exactly. There's enough there on the bone to get by, so I can kind of get away with losing that extra 10 minutes, losing that extra 20 minutes for that. So I feel like its runtime is perfect, and obviously because they probably realised, shit, we've gone a bit too short. So for about a minute or two, as soon as this movie finishes, you obviously have a blooper reel, which not a lot of movies have. Some movies do, some movies don't. I mean, I watched one yesterday. I had one, which was the Jackie Chan movie Spy Next Door, because Hayden put it on. Obviously, that has a highlight reel, obviously, of bloopers and stuff that went wrong, which, a lot of Jackie Chan movies did tend to do, because obviously there's always something going wrong, especially with his stunts and whatnot. But not many movies tend to. It tends to just jump straight into the credits, or at least have that the pre-credits where obviously it's like directed by, and it's got the stars and who's written by, screenplay by, blah blah blah, all that stuff in like a fancier format before obviously you have the actual credits properly roll. So this obviously gets rid of that, and it's like, okay, let's just show all the times that dialogue didn't go right, or just moments that were just too much for the movie. Because I know they showed some obviously shots from again during the sex scenes of other dialogue this guy was saying that were, I feel like the ones we got were fine enough, but there's some other ones where he just, like, some of the stuff he says is just like, what the fuck. So it does that, and then you got your credits. So again, I feel like they realised probably after they finished the movie, like, shit, we need like an extra like minute or two here where we've got all this footage, just fucking just show it. So again, the runtime of an hour, its full runtime of an hour 17 definitely works in this movie's favour. And of course, when the actual credits do properly roll, like most killer animal movies, there is the classic song of it's based on. The title of the song is the animal it's based on. So what I mean by that is, if you look at Rogue, you have the song Never Smile at a Crocodile, I think was a song on Rogue, off the top of my head. I know Bait was the shark had pretty teeth. And then you had Crawl, which was See You Later Alligator. And there's plenty of other ones, Snakes on a Plane, that had literally a song about snakes on a plane. I can't think of any more top of my head, but there's definitely a lot more killer animal flicks that just go, okay, let's just throw a song in at the end that's based on whatever we're antagonist is here. And this does the same. It has a song called Zombeavers, which is kind of played in like a Frank Sinatra style song, which again kind of adds to this movie, how like unhinged and crazy this movie is, because it's not like you wouldn't expect that type of style of song to be playing during its end credits. So again, that definitely like favors this movie because it just sums up what you've just watched. And then of course there's an end credits scene at the end which kind of tease the sequel, but it's been 11 years, so I don't think we're getting a sequel. It again shows the idea of the virus going from species to species, and in this case it's got to a species that can spread the virus even further. And I'm just like, well, I've watched this movie quite a few times, and I've never fucking seen that end credit scene. I've generally never seen that end credit scene, but then again, I don't think I ever expected to like go to the end of this movie, because I feel like as soon as the credits roll, I've always turned it off because I've not expected an end credit scene at the end, but I just left it running because I was obviously finished up my notes. I was jotting the rest of my notes down, so I left it running, and then I just looked up and I was like, oh, there's an end credit scene. What's this all about? Oh shit, it's a tease for a sequel which we never got. But you know, I don't feel like this movie needed a sequel, and it probably didn't deserve a sequel. So I'm kind of glad it didn't, because it kind of would have ruined this one. Because this kind of feels like definitely like one of those movies that is a one shot, because it's a throwback type movie to your old school creature features, or you just over the top horror comedies. So it's one of those throwback type ones. So I feel like having a sequel would have just, you know, when you watch this one back, you go, why'd they bother? Like, there's no need. And, you know, a lot of times movies do well enough that they give a sequel, and you just question why they even bothered. So I guess I'm just kind of glad they didn't bother with a sequel. Because, yes, you could have probably you could have explored the idea of going more over the top. That is something they could have easily done, but again, I feel like you go too over the top, it's going to be a bit too much. Like, this goes to the point of over the top, but it knows when it's going too far and doesn't go beyond that. So I feel like if I went with a sequel, they probably would have gone beyond that over the topness, and it kind of would have made it a bit more, well, shitter. So I'm very happy they didn't bother. But as I say, I never even knew there was an end credit scene. That was just something that I randomly stumbled across by just letting it run. I think that's all my notes that I really wanted to say. So obviously the movie does lose a point, though, I will say, because there is a scene which I won't spoil, which I'm just like, movie, why'd you have to go that route? You didn't need to go that route. It could have like just run away. What was the point in that? So it just lose a point for this sequence. But other than that, it's got some funny practical effects. Digital effects are meh. Characters are stupid and fucking idiots and just walking stereotypes at times, but it works in this movie's favour. There's some interesting story moments, I will say. And yeah, the kills aren't the greatest. They could have been a bit better, but they're passable at least. So I feel like I'll give this movie like a 7 out of 10 for being at least entertaining, which is kind of what you want from a movie called Zombeavers. You at least want entertainment, and I feel like that's something you get from this, and I'm happy I got that from this, because I feel like if you went into this expecting to at least get some goofy ass movie and not actually get this goofy ass movie, you'd have been a bit disappointed. So I'm happy that I wasn't. So I feel like a 7 is like a reasonable place for this movie to be at. But I will say, there's one scene that still makes me question, like, it just sums up the characters, but it still makes me question what the fuck. There's a character that just wears a beanie like I tend to do a lot, but they all go swimming and he still wears the beanie while swimming, and I'm just like, why the fuck are you wearing a beanie while swimming? Like, what the fuck? Like, it just makes no sense, but again, you all don't make any sense. So yeah, obviously, I'm gonna, just like the movie, I'm gonna pad out my runtime here. So I was looking at the cast and crew on this one, and from what I was reading, the director only has done like one other movie after this, and that was a movie called Drone, which has bad reviews on IMDb. And I was looking at the trailer for it, and I was like, this movie looks as dumb as Zombeavers, but it's on Prime Video for free at the moment. So I'm like, I kind of want to check this out because it looks like super fucking stupid. But if it's as dumb as this, it might just fucking work. And of course, it's about a killer drone. So I kind of do want to check it out to see how bad it actually is. So that's something I want to check in at some point. And I know apparently you also did the Critters TV show they did. I think it's called The New Binge, which was technically a movie, but then they cut down into a TV episodes. He did that, which I still haven't watched because they never bothered releasing it in the UK, which is a shame because I love watching the Critters stuff. Yeah, the last movie was shit, and the series isn't supposed to be that good, but I still would like to watch it just to see what I'm missing out on, or not missing out on technically. So obviously another thing I was see blow my nose real quick. So another thing obviously I was looking at was the cast, and the voice of the beavers, the sound effect they use, which is quite a cool sound effect, was done by the guy who voiced Hitmonkey in the series of the same name on Disney Plus and Hulu. Who obviously I also know is voicing the Hulk a lot in like Avengers Assemble, the TV series at least, and all the Disney animated shows and feature length specials they did. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It makes sense. It's kind of like how Frank Welker, the voice of Scooby-Doo, and Fred did the sound effects for the Anaconda in Anaconda, and like a bunch of people did the sound effects for the Gremlins in, obviously the Mogwais in Gremlins. So I find that pretty cool. And then there's one thing that like caught me off guard was the fact that the bear that's in the movie, they credit the bear as the Backstreet Boys. It doesn't say anything. The internet doesn't say anything about specifically which member, or if all of them are involved, or what to an extent they were, if they're the sound effects of this bear, or what. So I don't know what to say about that, other than to say them just slapping the name Backstreet Boys against this bear makes people like ask a lot of questions, and that there is a perfect way to get conversations started. But I would like to know what the fuck they mean by the Backstreet Boys are involved with this bear. But it's been 11 years. The only person who can actually give you the explanation there would be the director. And obviously the biggest cameo, the biggest appearance in this movie is the cameo from Bill Burr, obviously the comedian who I know from The Mandalorian. That's the only real notable name in this movie, apart from Backstreet Boys is the bear. He's probably the only real notable name in this movie. Yes, I was looking at the cast, and I've seen him in other things. I mean, the one character was in the second Dumb and Dumber movie, not the prequel one, the actual second one. And some of the other ones are cropped up in other things, but out of all of them, he's probably the biggest one. But yeah, so just the Backstreet Boys one, just like what the fuck? I don't know where to actually talk about that, because as I say, just the internet again, just like the budget doesn't actually say anything in detail about it. It just says Bear Backstreet Boys. I don't have a fucking clue with that, so that's all I can really think about. So yeah, obviously that is it for this episode. Obviously, if you've seen the Zombeavers, put your thoughts in the comments below. I said I might look into Demon Slayer for next week. I might then not, and just hold off until the actual Demon Slayer movie comes out, because I could just do back-to-back ones on that. But we'll see about that. I might just stick with some creature features for a bit, because obviously I am still planning to that Jaws and want to celebrate its anniversary, the re-review of it. Still planning to do that, so I might just do some creature, because I've got another week, maybe 2, I think it is actually, before I need that one. So I might do a double bill of creature features before then. So I'll have a look at some of the other ones I can watch, either ones that I've seen or ones I haven't seen. I've seen most of them, but I'll have a little butchers around and see what I can do. So obviously you can check the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, etc., etc. You can also check out the video on YouTube, where you'll find obviously all my gaming videos, among other things. And I did do a podcast, here's me trying to remember now, I think about 2 years ago, which talked about the idea of movies with crazy ass concepts. Because I think we did that around the time Cocaine Bear came out. We talked about the idea. It was Hayden, myself, and maybe Alex was there. I don't think he was actually. I think that was just me and Hayden. Obviously was around the point Cocaine Bear came out. It was like, okay, let's talk about these other movies with the same sort of idea of stupid concepts. And like Sharknado was obviously one of the ones that popped up. And I think we might have mentioned the fact that I think we probably might have mentioned Zombeavers, and the fact that this movie helped me and Hayden come up with like our own stupid ass fucking concept for a non-aggressive creature going aggressive, which I will not go into detail with because you're not stealing my fucking idea. Because it's a stupid ass idea which works enough, and I'm going to try and write it at some point. In detail, at least. I've got the basic outline done, just need the actual details on it. But yeah, so we did that, and I will link that in the description below. We've done plenty of creature features on this channel. I'll link a couple, but you know, you can probably track them down yourself. I'll link the main ones that I've done. So other than that, I can't really think of anything else. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
If you like what you've seen, don't be afraid to throw us a little like and subscribe. That's always very appreciated over here. And, well, I'll see you on the next video.